Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
You're watching the Now Let's Review channel, and next up it's going to be the Nakto F4 E-Bike. Alright, so look at this, Jesse. Big cargo area. Nice comfy seat. What do you think? I know you like cargo bikes.
And look at the yellow.
Yeah, it really stands out.
That's a nice
You know
yellow.
what's funny about this bike? There's two colors. Green is a lot cheaper than the yellow. Let's just talk price here for a second. So if you're just watching just to see if this is in your price range or not, the yellow has an MSRP of $17.99, although it's been on sale a lot for $16.19.
Okay.
The green is way cheaper, so if you want to save some money, go to this kind of drab olive green, and it's $14.99 MSRP, but it's only $12.99 on sale. Why is it so different for the color?
Well, as anyone who buys a yellow sports car will tell you, the yellow things go faster. So I think, no, this is a really nice yellow. We did seem to get it with a little bit of scuffs and damage that seemed to have happened in the box. The battery took a little bit of, a couple of little scrapes in here. It doesn't help that it has the very piano black finish.
It's funny, it came loose in the box, and if they just taped it or something, or like strapped it, it wouldn't have.
I feel like it had fallen out of the holder, which I don't know if it is possible to get it to extract without the key, but it might have happened.
Yeah, so let's go over some of the features and see if this is a good bike for you. First thing to talk about is that it's Cadence Sensing. That's why you're getting it under sub $2,000. And this Cadence is very on-offy. So it really likes to go 9 miles an hour in power level 1, which is a little fast for me.
Okay.
Power level 1, I'd like it to be more like 7, but 9 is a little speedy.
Okay.
And it just, you just touch that pedal and you're off.
Yeah. And that's kind of how Cadence Sensing works. If you've seen any of our other reviews where we talked about either Cadence or Torque Sensing e-bikes, which are basically the only two flavors, Torque Sensing which is not this one, Torque Sensing is the more expensive, nicer option, and Cadence Sensing is going to get you a more budget-friendly option. I tested it out. One of the biggest problems for me with the Cadence Sensing was that even in top gear, I was getting some ghost pedaling. Ghost pedaling is where you're pedaling as fast as you can go, but the bike accelerates beyond that level, and all you're gonna hear is this. Relative to how the wheel is spinning, your pedals are not inputting any power, and that means that the motor is doing all the work, and that means that the battery is draining faster. Now that was at about 20-ish miles an hour, and this has a top speed of about 28 miles an hour, so it's annoying, but I think that for more reasonable speeds, that won't be much of an issue.
I really like that it goes up to class 3, 28 miles an hour. That means if you're doing deliveries on this bike, and let's face it, I think a lot of you watching are going to consider doing Uber Eats or something on this bike, and that means you're going to be riding with traffic. And if you're going to ride with traffic, it's nice at times to be able to go those high speeds. Do I think this bike wants to go that speed all the time? No. The brakes, to me, being just very simple cable brakes, did not feel like I was feeling a lot of shudder at the higher speeds when I was braking, so I feel like that's a downside here, is that when you're going 28 miles an hour, there's a lot of weight here that you have to stop. So apply both brakes. Also, we had to do some adjustments to the brake when we first got them, because you had to pull the handles all the way in to get any braking going, and of course, that's not what you want.
That's pretty common, and adjusting brakes like these are very simple to do, so it's not that big a deal, but it is something that for the novice, someone who's never done that before, might be a little bit scary. Don't be scared. There's plenty of great tutorials online of how to do that.
So the seat here is fixed. You can probably get some kind of extender, although I didn't see one on their website, but this is it. So let's talk about what height you have to be to ride this. I'm actually at the upper limit. 5'9" is what they say is the tallest. You're taller than me though, and you rode it, so what did you feel? Okay, so basically they say 4'10" to 5'9".
Okay.
But you're 6'1"?
No, I'm like 5'11", 6 foot-ish.
Okay, and so a couple inches above what they say you should be.
It felt fine. I didn't think that I was gonna be like Tour de Francing on the pedals. So the thing is that the bike is very low, and I do appreciate a low center of gravity, especially when you're gonna probably be putting a bunch of weight up here. It's nice that the bike is already kind of low to the ground. The problem that we were running into, quite literally, was the ground. The ground was simply too close to the bike. And when we were pedaling and leaning into a turn, the pedal would scrape against the ground. Now this does happen on some bikes, but it's usually not at quite the angle that we were dealing with, or only if there's stuff sticking out. On a completely flat parking lot, asphalt parking lot, no bumps or anything, putting in about a 10 or 15 degree tilt meant that the pedal was gonna scrape on the ground. In fact, I think on right here, you can see that some of the metal actually got scraped away.
Luckily, these are metal pedals. If they'd been plastic, they might have broken.
But unluckily, if you're in a position where the pedal is kind of pointed at the ground and you lean into it, it could cause an accident.
Yeah, it can catch.
And that was happening to me quite frequently. Not that I was getting hurt, but just that it was starting to catch on the ground. So what you have to do is be very, very mindful of your pedals and either return them to what's called in the mountain biking world a treble position, where both pedals are kind of equal with each other, or put the opposite pedal down as you do the turn, which isn't what you normally actually want to do, because when you're like leaning into a turn, you want to lean your whole body into it, and usually that pedal comes down, but don't do that because it'll trip.
Right.
Weird. That's a weird thing on an e-bike. What we were conjecturing was that this frame might have been usually meant for a bike with larger wheels, and that they just adapted it to having smaller wheels, but that moved the pedal and the cranks closer to the ground.
What I did like about it is the shape of the frame means that you can get on and off really easily. You don't have to put your leg over, you can put it through. That's really nice. One thing I think they should have thought of in the design, they did this so that you can put an extended seat here, which is a nice thing you might want to do, and they have pegs here to put your feet, so that's great.
Really nice.
But if you're not going to do it for two people, if you're going to do it for cargo, I would have liked to have seen them lower the cargo down to this level instead of raising it up the extra 5 inches.
It does seem like they threw away some room right here.
And they raised the center of gravity.
Right. I mean, there was some suspension travel, but there wasn't that much that would interfere with this box.
Right.
I think that there's plenty of opportunity for you, the consumer, to build out something that could fit under here. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. It could be made out of cardboard or something. Just anything that would fit in here and allow you to have a couple of loose odds and ends, tools.
You could put a bag in there. Yeah.
Or even just strapping some stuff that would fit in this area. It's nice to have, and it keeps the center of gravity that much lower as opposed to going up to seat height.
So we got the cargo kit with this, and you can see that it's very wide, and that's nice because as you can see, we put a big box on the back to kind of show you what kind of stuff you could carry. This might be nice to put an insulated box on if you're going to do food deliveries. So perfect like cargo bike for food deliveries. I think the price makes it great for that. Also, the suspension makes it great for that. You got front and rear suspension, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's the first time that we saw this kind of weird, I don't know if this is like a silencer for the suspension. I never heard suspension before. But yeah, they have this weird setup with the dual shocks in the back and the dual suspension in the front. So that's really nice. It was soaking up bumps pretty well. They're not the most expensive suspension components, so it's not like a car or anything like that, but it's definitely nice for e-bikes, yes.
Also, I want to point out, these are fat tire, but they're not 4-inch, they're 3-inch, which is kind of nice. You don't really need 4-inch on a bike like this. They're 20-inch tires, so they're smaller. And I think it was a really nice design. Also, I love the fenders.
Yeah, and to get to that 3-inch wheel, that's going to increase your efficiency because there's going to be less tire drag on the road. And it's also, I think, makes the bike lighter relative to the tire size and more maneuverable. I think that it really added to the leaniness of it, which of course was kind of counteracted by the pedals, but whatever. It really felt sprightly, which is very nice.
I wish they could have put the battery lower. If it had sat deeper into the well here, it would have been nice to just free up some space here, maybe for a cup holder. Instead, they put the cup holder here, and it doesn't really work well because it hits, when you go in and out, it hits this strut. So I think this is dumb.
Also, the bottle holder that we got arrived broken.
Right.
I think that's because this battery at some point smashed into it. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, it's just a weird spot.
And it's not a great size. I would just replace this anyway.
And I'd stick it here. This is a great spot to have a big old...
It's hard to grab. You want to grab and go.
No, I mean, yeah, you could keep it.
Also, you can mount stuff up here. You got lots of real estate. We mounted our LCD screen off to the side so that we had more room here for putting a cell phone. That's what I would advise doing, but it's just nice having a nice bar there with lots of room on it to put cup holders, phone holders, and stuff like that.
While we're up at the front of the bike, I want to talk about the light. Nice big light. Wasn't, extraordinarily bright or anything like that, but this size, when you're on the road, is really vital. It really screams to motorists, hey, this is a larger vehicle. You're probably not going to want to just treat me like a bike necessarily. This might be a motorcycle. Why it matters, whether it's a bike or a motorcycle to motorists, I don't know, but it just tends to. And having a nice big motorcycle looking light on the front gives you just a little bit more road respect.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how just a bigger headlight actually changes the whole look. If you can imagine it without that right now, it looks dorkier as a bike.
It does.
All right, let's get to the meat of the matter here, the motor and the battery. The motor is a 750 watt nominal, 1000 watt peak motor, and it's got 52 Newton meters of torque. So it was pretty torquey. That's because it's being fed from a pretty big, beefy battery, 48 volts and 20 amps, and it charges in 4 to 5 hours.
And this gives the bike a claimed range of 60 miles.
And that's with pedal assist.
That is with pedal assist, so probably more in the 30 to 40 mile range, but that's definitely no slouch when it comes to e-bikes. That kind of a trip is a real hike if you want to get into that kind of thing. And again, for food delivery, that's pretty feasible. And buying a new battery, so that way you have two and you could swap them out. You could store it right there. There's a lot of cool possibilities that happen when you have a nice big battery. Now, the downside I will say is, again, because it's Cadence Sensing, the motor is going to be doing most of the work at any speed above, say 16 or 18 miles an hour. Your feet are just not going to be able to keep up and actually contribute to the overall range of the bike, and that's going to kind of sap away some of the range. So that's a bit disappointing, but if you wanted to keep it at a lower pedal assist level to make sure that you were pushing with your feet, you could probably keep that range relatively high.
It's got a Shimano 6-speed gear set, and that's all you really need for a bike like this, which I thought was pretty good. I really like the LCD display. It's very big and colored, and you can see it really well. It has a bunch of different things. So your speed, your max speed, your average speed, your odometer, triple meter, range, calories, trip timer, clock, mode, watts or amps, battery percentage or bar, and your assist level 0 through 5.
So there's a lot of different functions in there. I like that it has nice big old plus and minus buttons here, along with a dedicated light button, which is very welcome, as well as a horn. The horn is no slouch either. Ow.
Oh, that was loud.
That was loud. Outside, it felt less loud because it wasn't reflecting off a wall and directly into my ear. But that is gonna hopefully get attention from, it's better than a bell.
That's what you want.
A bell in the year 2023 and 2024, it's just not cutting it anymore. Everybody's wearing ear pods, baby.
That is a good point. I mean, whenever we go for e-bike rides on trails and stuff,
I literally was bing, 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 bing to behind a guy who is walking down the middle of the bike lane, and he turned around, surprised, and he went, "Oh, I thought that was my friend's phone getting a notification."
Yep.
And I'm not going to play it again, but if you play that, there's no misinterpreting what that might be.
yeah, you might want to add a bell just to be the friendly, and then
You get the friend, yes.
and then when the friendly doesn't work, you honk them. Yeah. I don't know.
And
That's
you have
just-
plenty of real estate to do that, which is really nice.
Yeah. So back to the saddle again. This kind of seat is pretty cool because you know as well as I do that those little bike seats can get annoying unless you're doing the Tour de France or something. This is kind of nice. It lets you kind of move your body front and back depending on what kind of position you like. But again, there's no up and down. So you really this has to fit you. And that's the problem. If you order a bike like this and it's not right, you got to send it back. So make sure that you really look at the chart. We're going to put that up here. Make sure that you're the right size for this bike and that you think this is going to fit the way you want it to ride before you buy it. A lot of the reviews that we read, people get bikes online, but then they don't like some aspect, and then they have to decide, is it worth packing it all back up and losing maybe some of the shipping costs to send it back, or should I just keep it? So really give that a lot of thought. And if this isn't going to be a cargo bike for you, then I don't think it's your bike. Like, if you're not planning on doing some cargo stuff with it or adding the second seat, then I think that there's a lot of just wasted space.
Sure, but I would say that having a second seat on an e-bike adds a whole new level of fun to it.
It does.
Having somebody be able to hop on with you and go for a ride, obviously you have to buy the second seat for it or come up with something, is really fun. It did come with the pegs, which I think is really fun. And let's just talk about passenger safety for a minute in terms of toes and feet.
Rad Runner is really cool. They put plexiglass here that protects you. Make sure that your rider is going to be more adult-ish and know where to put their feet. If it's a little kid, they could easily get their feet stuck into the spokes.
Yes. Closed-toed shoes, that kind of thing. I want everyone to be safe here, but as far as the bike goes, I think that it's one of the better rear seats that we've seen in terms of just overall layout and having a place to put your feet.
So those of you out there who might have done some Uber Eats stuff in your Toyota Corolla, you're going to save a lot of money if the city that you live in could do it on an e-bike instead. You're spending a lot of your money on that Corolla on what? Fuel and maintenance. On an e-bike, that's almost zero. So if the last few times you did Uber Eats, you're like, oh, that didn't work out financially because of all my fuel, and then I had to do, a new exhaust system, really do give e-bikes a look, because you're only going to be carrying, this will hold all your Uber Eats stuff. Like, this will hold a few pizzas and some chicken wings.
Well, and another thing to think about is, with all the car payments and everything that you'd have to do, just base costs, like We're not even talking about fuel in terms of owning a vehicle. You might have to do several deliveries a night in order for that to pay off.
Right.
This could be a very fun way for you to go and explore your city, get paid, probably make the same amount of money in a much shorter amount of trips if you do all of the math, where you say, okay, I bought this bike for, what is it, $1,600, and I got the yellow one, and you could get the cheaper one for green, and then I don't have to do as many trips in order to still make the same profit as if I had to have a car payment of basically half of this value every month.
And here's the thing. I know a lot of Uber Eats drivers where their biggest problem in cities is parking at the food place, at the restaurant.
Traffic.
And then, in traffic, and then parking at the delivery place.
Yes.
This, you'll have no problems. You get right up to the door in both places. And you're right, with traffic, you'll just be cutting through traffic. It'd be like it doesn't exist. So yes, it doesn't go as fast, but in most cities, you're actually going to go faster.
Depends on the city. Again, this might have absolutely no relation to you whatsoever. This is just, going to be a babe magnet. Very well could be, especially if you go for the yellow. I think that this is a very fun e-bike. It's very well priced. I think that they were very smart in a couple of key things. They kept the dual suspension, which is a big plus in my opinion. They went for Cadence Sensing, which is cheap. It's the cheaper option, and it's, it's about as well implemented as most cheap e-bikes.
But if you're doing cargo, you're not going for comfort.
And honestly, a Cadence Sensing bike is still loads and loads and loads of fun. You don't have to be all hoitsy-toitsy about it. An e-bike is an e-bike at the end of the day. You get a throttle. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And this, and especially with the range, I think that all of those factors combined, this is a very fun utility kind of vehicle.
Yeah, look at this frame for a second. The way they were able to pull this off is you got this U here and then this extra strength that they added right here. That was really smart, I think, because it allowed them to keep this open, makes it a very quick on and off bike. And then the last piece I'll say is very adjustable handlebars. These can be tilted to your heart's content. You can go up and down, so you can really get the bike to fit you and the style that you like to ride in. Anyway, I think if I were to sum this bike up in the one word, it would be cargo. Like, it's a cargo bike, and I think it does its job pretty well.
I would go more flowery. I'd go jaunty. This is a nice jaunty bike, especially in the yellow. I think that it really has a lot of personality, which I just have to say, a lot of e-bikes do not bring to the table. Do consider the fact that you're going to have to be very good at pedaling. So if feet control is not something that you're super into because either you're older or you have some kind of problem, something to definitely think about, but I think for a younger person, something that is they'll get used to very quickly.
And I think you're going to enjoy the throttle. Getting through intersections is so much easier to give it a little juice without having to worry about pedaling.
Well, let's just quickly, having 1,000 watts of peak power gave this thing plenty of off-the-line juice. It felt great to zoom around, and again, it felt very sprightly, even though it's going to be able to carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, 400 pounds of capacity. So if you're like a 200-pound rider, you're still going to have 200 pounds for either a passenger or cargo. And I don't think you're going to have 200 pounds of Uber Eats unless you've gotten a big call that night.
Yeah. So overall, I'm very pleased. The yellow is great.
If one of you gets this and uses it for some kind of food delivery, please comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts. And please let us know down below other things that you would like us to review, because that's what we're here for you for.
Yeah.
We do EV charger reviews. We do e-bikes, e-scooters, pretty much everything E that you can think of, we do here. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The like button helps share this with more people, because look, we want to get more e-bikes out there in the world. I just read that there's like 1 million e-bikes sold in this country every year. And that's just this country. We want to get that number going higher and higher, because every e-bike on the road means there's less gas cars on the road.
So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Now Let's Review.